In the history of the working class, it will never be forgotten that the English working class was the first to go through the great ordeal of the Industrial Revolution, Friedrich Engels. Welcome to the Left Library, where we simplify political philosophy, political economy, and political science. Today, we're exploring Friedrich Engels' seminal work, The Condition of the Working Class in England. Written in 1845, this book provides a detailed and harrowing account of the living and working conditions faced by the English working class during the early days of industrial capitalism. Friedrich Engels was a German philosopher, social scientist, and close collaborator of Karl Marx. In the early 1840s, Engels spent time in Manchester, England. Here he witnessed firsthand the dire conditions of the working class. His observations and experiences culminated in this powerful work, one which aimed to expose the exploitation and suffering caused by industrial capitalism. Engels' book begins by detailing the appalling living conditions of the working class in England. He describes overcrowded slums, unsanitary living environments, and inadequate housing. Engels notes that these conditions were not the result of individual failings, but were systemic issues created by the capitalist mode of production. He writes, "The streets are generally unpaved, rough, dirty, filled with vegetable and animal refuse without sewers or gutters, but supplied with stagnant pools instead." His vivid description highlights how the capitalist system prioritizes profit over the well-being of workers, leading to widespread poverty and misery. Engels meticulously documents the squalor in which workers lived, with entire families often crammed into single rooms. The lack of proper sanitation and clean water contributed to frequent outbreaks of disease, exacerbating the misery of the working class. Engels discusses harsh working conditions in factories, mines, and workshops. He describes long hours, dangerous environments, and the exploitation of child labor. Workers faced grueling labor for meager wages, with little regard for their health or safety. He states, "The history of the proletariat in England is the history of the English people for the last 100 years. Its first consequences were the overcrowding of the towns and the increasing misery of the factory workers. This exploitation is a direct result of the capitalist system, which seeks to maximize profits by minimizing labor costs." Engels argues that the capitalist class, or bourgeoisie, enrich themselves at the expense of the working class, or proletariat. The relentless drive for profit led factory owners to push workers to their physical limits, often in unsafe conditions. Children as young as 5 were employed performing hazardous tasks for minimal pay. Health and housing issues. Engels examines the health consequences of industrial capitalism. Overcrowded, unsanitary living conditions and hazardous work led to widespread illness and high mortality rates. Diseases like cholera, typhus, and tuberculosis were rampant. Frightful mortality statistics soon showed the consequences. More than 57% of working-class children perished before age 5. Engels' accounts underscore the human cost of unchecked industrial capitalism. Impact of industrialization. The book further explores how industrialization disrupted traditional ways of life and created new social divisions. Small artisans and farmers were driven out of business by large industrial enterprises, causing the proletarianization of many who were once self-sufficient. Engels notes, "The workers in the great industrial cities were congregated in large numbers, forming the new proletarian class, and with it the germ of the revolution. Industrialization created a vast underclass of workers who had nothing to sell but their labor power, setting the stage for class conflict and revolutionary potential. The displacement of traditional industries by mechanized factories not only altered economic structures, but also reshaped social relations. Engels observed the loss of community and the alienation felt by workers, who were now cogs in the vast machinery of industrial capitalism." Engels concludes his work with a call for systemic change. He argues that the conditions faced by the working class are not inevitable, but are the result of the capitalist system. He calls for the abolition of capitalism and the establishment of a socialist society where the means of production are owned collectively and the welfare of all is prioritized over profit. He states, "The only means of securing any improvement in the position of the working class is to abolish the system of wages altogether and to establish a communist society." This call for revolutionary change stems from Marxist theory, which sees the overthrow of capitalism as necessary for achieving social justice and equality. Engels believed that only through collective ownership and democratic control of the means of production could the working class achieve true liberation and improve their living and working conditions. Engels' observations from the 19th century resonate strongly with issues faced by workers today. The gig economy, characterized by short-term contracts and freelance work, often lacks the protections and benefits associated with traditional employment. Workers in this economy frequently face instability, lack of health care, and insufficient income, similar to the precarious conditions Engels described. Furthermore, globalization has led to the outsourcing of manufacturing to countries with lower labor costs, resulting in conditions reminiscent of those in Engels' time. Sweatshops and factories in developing countries often operate with minimal regard for worker safety and rights, exploiting labor to maximize profits. Understanding Engels' analysis is crucial for contemporary activists and policymakers. It highlights the importance of addressing not only the economic structures that perpetuate inequality, but also the need for systemic reforms that prioritize human well-being over profit. Engels' work serves as a historical precedent for modern labor movements fighting for fair wages, safe working conditions, and social safety nets. The Condition of the Working Class in England by Friedrich Engels is a powerful indictment of the capitalist system and its impact on workers. Engels' detailed descriptions of living and working conditions, health issues, and social upheavals provide a stark picture of the human cost of industrial capitalism. His call for systemic change highlights the need for a revolutionary transformation of society to ensure justice and equality for the working class. Engels' work remains relevant today, as many of the issues he identified persist in various forms around the world. By examining the historical roots of worker exploitation, we can better understand and address the challenges faced by workers in the modern global economy. Thank you for watching The Left Library. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more simplified insights into political philosophy, political economy, and political science. Let's continue to learn and grow together.